Welcome to the Real Estate Espresso Podcast, your morning shot of what's new in the world of real estate investing. I'm your host, Victor Menashe. On today's show, we're talking about a twist on a strategy that we've been using for close to a decade. If you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you'll have heard me talk about the buy on the line, move the line strategy. This approach is an exceptionally good way of creating value in the market. What we mean by this strategy is to exploit the many dividing lines that emerge in real estate submarkets, where on one side of the line you've got a hot, expensive neighborhood on one side and then an economically depressed area on the other. Often these lines are arbitrary. They exist for no particularly good reason. Now, if you redevelop on the wrong side of that line, then guess what? The line has moved now and it's on the other side of your property, which means, of course, you can do it again and again and again. And because there's no comparable properties on the poor side of the line, you're going to get a valuation similar to the hot neighborhood next door. The way this story goes, the line needs to be an arbitrary line that can be easily moved. If that boundary is a hard boundary, like a municipal boundary or a freeway or a railway line or a school district, then that line is going to be much more difficult to move, if not practically impossible. In order for the buy on the line, move the line strategy to work, you've got to create enough value that the market takes notice and says, oh, the line is moved. If you only develop one property, then probably nobody cares, nobody notices. But if you put a little scale behind it and maybe develop 5 or 10 properties, then the market will take notice. That's the basic premise behind the buy on the line, move the line strategy. But today I want to revise the description to include one very specific special case. If the line is a municipal boundary and the city's a growing city, you might want to consider looking for property that's just outside the municipal boundary. If the city has a history of annexing land and growing its boundaries, then this could be another opportunity to create tremendous value. We have 3 projects right now in different cities where our project sits just outside the city boundary. And when you move outside the city, a few things might be present. Number 1, the property taxes are probably going to be lower. For many owners, this fact alone can be an incentive for people to buy the property because properties are more affordable, but they're close enough to the city to benefit from all the city has to offer. So sometimes just buying on that line without necessarily requiring that boundary to move can create value because that property is more attractive. The second thing to consider is you won't have access to city services like water, sewer, city-owned roads, and maybe even natural gas. And number 3, you probably will not have access to public transportation. If your goal is to develop higher density than might be present in the county, then the process of annexation could be key to making higher density a reality. Now, we have 2 major projects that involve annexation, and annexation makes access to utilities possible, and the public utilities enable higher density. You can't build very dense housing if you're relying on underground well water and a septic system instead of the sanitary sewer. Health regulations require a large spacing between your septic system and the water well. Usually that's a minimum of 50 feet. Most homes with septic systems are built on at least 1 or 2 acres. Inside the city with municipal services, you can expect a density of anywhere from 3 to 15 units per acre. Yes, the taxes are higher in the city, but that's because the city is providing more services. If you understand what the city is looking for in order to support annexation, the annexation process might not be all that difficult, and you can expect a significant multiple of the land value when you're inside the city versus outside the city. If you're rezoning land from agricultural to residential at the same time as you're undertaking an annexation, you can expect a value multiple of 10 times or more. In an environment when so many investors are chasing too few opportunities, the additional barrier of annexation creates more opportunities for buyers. There's less competition for those opportunities. The buy on the line, move the line strategy is one of those reliable, scalable methods to create value. And when you use it repeatedly, it becomes so second nature, you might not even realize you're using it. In fact, we recently had the realization on one of our projects, such that we woke up one day and we said, oh my gosh, we're doing it. We're using the buy on the line, move the line strategy, and we aren't even aware of it. The beauty is that you can create massive multiples of value when annexation is part of the strategy. As you think about that, have an awesome rest of your day. Go make some great things happen. And we'll talk to you again tomorrow.